Hello and welcome back to my channel. I am Mercedes and this is the Frugal Life with Mercedes. Today we are going to talk about how the USDA is going to make all SNAP recipients reapply for benefits. Now, I have been talking about the SNAP benefit thing during the entire government shutdown, and I will do another video at some point, I guess about other things involving this, but I did just kind of want to let you guys know that that is what's going to happen. All SNAP recipients are going to have to reapply. It doesn't matter their circumstances or anything like that. Everybody has to reapply. So my understanding of SNAP benefits, and I want to remind you guys that I have never personally been on SNAP benefits as far as like going through the process. When I was a small child, my mother was on SNAP benefits for a short amount of time because she had small children and was going through a divorce. So I received SNAP benefits, but I didn't go through the process of getting them. And then when I was in my early 20s, I went on the website and was immediately denied, even though I like to remind you guys I was making $1,400 a month and lived on my own and went to college and worked full time. But anyway, so I was denied. And I only share that just so you guys understand like where my knowledge is coming from. But my basic understanding is you can go online or go in person, make an appointment, whatever, and you fill out the paperwork, and they basically can tell you right away in person or online, like, hey, you do not qualify, or yes, you do qualify. And then my understanding is you do have a face-to-face meeting, and you are required to show pay stubs. You are expected to show I saw you're supposed to show like your expenses, like what your rent, mortgages, whatever, like how many people are in the house. Can you prove that grandma lives with you? Things like that. And then you're told like, okay, because there's X amount of people in your house, and there are charts, like it's not just like the person sitting across from you that works there is like, okay, well, we're going to give you $1. We're going to give you $3,000 a month. Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, there's a mathematical system of you have X amount of people and your income is this. And so then it needs to, we'll give you this. So it's going to look different for every person that is approved. So the reasoning behind the reapplying is because during the government shutdown, and there's been all this uproar from people about everybody on SNAP is taking advantage of the system and blah, 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 blah. Even though I do like to remind you guys that the mega rich take extreme tax breaks, which to me is really fraud, but that's perfectly legal. And I'm not saying that people on SNAP are or are not fraudulent. I'm just saying that it's like there's been such a stink about that. And I will tell you guys that there are so many misconceptions about individuals that receive government subsidies of any kind. And I was discussing this with a friend of mine the other day, and I was like, I'm not saying that there's no fraud. I'm simply saying there isn't as much fraud as the media tells you, as legislators or government will tell you, or somebody that has never been on SNAP, has never gone hungry, has never been food insecure, what they're convinced how many people are taking advantage. Are there people on SNAP that take advantage and are committing fraud? Absolutely. Just like there are people that claim to be disabled and they're really not, or claim this, and you know what I mean, and those things are not okay, but that's a very small number of individuals compared to the actual people who are on it and truly need it. And I've said this in several videos about SNAP benefits during the government shutdown, that if I go and fill out paperwork and then are told, present these documents, and I present these documents, and I hop, skip, and jump and stand on my head and do whatever it is that they ask me to do, and I give it to them, and then they say, hey, you're entitled to X amount of money, am I really committing fraud? I followed your rules and your regulations. And I think like some of the issue is kind of an example I want to give. If, Brandon and I are married, but let's say Brandon and I are together, we're not married, we got a couple of kids, we got a house together, and one of us doesn't work, one of us is a stay-at-home parent, the other one works. Well, technically, that person is single, because in most states they do not recognize a relationship unless it is legally binding, like through a legal marriage. There are a few states that recognize common law marriage, but I live in Virginia and they do not recognize common law marriage. So you could be with somebody for 50 years, and if you are not legally married, then you are technically single. So if one of us went and was like, hey, I'm a single parent and I've got these 3 kids, technically you're supposed to count the income of that significant other. And so I think that might be where some of the disconnect is. Intentionally, unintentionally, it's not for me to say. I'm not in that situation. But you're technically supposed to count that person's income. And again, because I've never gone through the process of getting on SNAP, I don't know really what those face-to-face conversations look like. Now, my only reference point is my first husband, his mother worked at the free clinic here nearby. And she was partially in charge of the clients when the people would come in to use the free clinic. And the free clinic is not free. It's based off income and like a few other things, and it's usually for people who don't have insurance or don't have good quality insurance or what have you. So basically she explained it to me that if I came in to the free clinic and was like, hey, I need whatever medical care, that they have you fill out paperwork, they ask you what your expenses are, they ask you what your income is, they make you show pay stubs, blah blah blah. And then it was her job to kind of like question what they were telling you. So she told me that on a regular basis she would get somebody coming in who would claim that they don't work, they have no income. And then she'd have to be like, okay, but you came in that car, so did you borrow that car? Is that car yours? Who pays for that car? Do you live in like a shelter, And again, I'm not making direct quotes. This is what she told me, my first mother-in-law. And so I don't know if the SNAP questionnaire is the same and how much they're really digging into things. And so I'm hoping that with people reapplying, and then we have just as many people on SNAP as we did before they had to reapply, that I'm hoping it's going to change some people's hearts and be like, okay, well, we made these people jump through all these hoops and they still are approved for the exact same amount as before. So, maybe there's not as much fraud as we thought. And maybe these people are in need. And a bigger issue is why that many Americans need assistance buying food. Because our system is messed up. Do you know what I mean? Like the wage disparity and the education disparity and the options and, and wages don't match expenses and, all these things, but these people are in need. And so I'm glad that the thing is, SNAP is rolling again. And I think it's unfortunate that everybody has to reapply. Oh, and I do want to point out too that if you are a SNAP recipient, you do have to reapply every 6 months to a year, depending upon where you live and your situation. But I guess it's not as intense as the initial applying. So they're saying that this reapply is going to be just as thorough as if you've never been on the system before. So we're going to see how that all plays out. And, I've got some mixed feelings about it, and I hope that it quiets some people. And again, guys, I'm not saying there is no fraud. I'm just saying there is not as much fraud as some people think that there is. And when I say some people, I mean like regular people that maybe have never even been on the, on the system or on the program. There isn't as much as you would think. And I think that we also need to re-examine all the actual fraud that's going on, but it's going on with people that are famous and are rich and have power, and they have lawyers and they have status. And so, they can kind of make it look like it's not fraud, even though it is. Fraud is fraud. Whether you defraud somebody of $1 or $30 million, it's all wrong. It's all stealing. It's all not okay. And so we really, if we're concerned about fraud, then we need to start examining these big corporations and these celebrities and, politicians and all that kind of thing. So, we kind of need to step up our game on that. Okay, guys, so that's just something I wanted to let you guys know in case any of you are SNAP recipients or know people that are SNAP recipients, or if you're watching this and you are one of those people that thinks that all of them are defrauding, I really encourage you guys to do your own research and become educated on the subject if you are not. Okay? So thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel. And until next time, guys, bye.